This might be the best Fairchild emulation plugin there is. It's certainly the best UnFairchild plugin because it's the only one. For those of you who don't know, the UnFairchild hardware compressor is a remake of the legendary Fairchild 670 compressor. So this is an Undertone plugin developed by Mixland and code by KIIVE. Attack and release controls on a Fairchild work with presets. The first 6 are fixed in their attack and release. The variations 1 to 4, which you will not find on an original Fairchild, have a slower attack and release by themselves. But you can use these modifiers here below, something which is also unique to the UnFairchild. These will use the default settings of preset variations 1 to 4 and make the attack and release slower or faster if you want. All the attack and release times are not set in stone. This is because the plugin is program dependent. In other words, different audio levels will make that attack and release times change. Now, this is within margin. Overall, the fastest attack I found on this plugin was around 30 milliseconds, the average was around 100 milliseconds. But at all times there's a slight, very fast attack spike. This attack and release behavior make that you really have to dive in and tweak and tweak and tweak to find the optimal settings. This sounds scary, but this plugin sounds very good in basically every setting. Here's UnFairchild on the Master Boss. It really adds some great punch and polish. On this next vocal, listen to how grabby the UnFairchild is and how much polish it adds.
Take a moment and realize, gotta catch it before it passes on by. Take a moment and realize, gotta catch it before it passes on by. 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 Now's the time. Take a moment and realize. Take a moment and realize. Take a moment and realize. Take a moment and realize.
It's a big improvement. The Fairchild makes the vocal more consistent without any signs of overcompressing. You would expect that the slow attack means that this compressor is not really suited for quick transient control, but that is not quite true. The UnFairchild does saturate a lot, and you notice that when you use two completely different input gain levels. Listen most of all to the snare drum in this next bit. All levels have been matched. You hear with gain fully boosted how much of the sharp attack is saturated and flattened. Use this to your advantage, drive the plugin until you get the loud transients to sound like you want and then start dialing your compression. This also means you can use this plugin as a sort of a preamp saturation device. The DC threshold control is very globally speaking a knee and compression control. Fully to the left it will have a very soft knee, meaning that compression will start earlier. Fully to the right the knee gets more pronounced. This means it will compress more, but way closer to the threshold you have set. And yes, with this you still have to set the threshold and work with the input gain if needed to find the sweet spot. For the plugin version, they went for an almost one-on-one replication of the hardware unit. Normally I find that hardware and plugins don't need to be an exact copy visually. Turning a knob is a whole different interaction than using a mouse and keyboard with a screen. But I must say that with this particular design I have no issue whatsoever in its being the same exact layout as the hardware unit. The big knobs are easy to adjust, there's a very clear layout and the info is also clear. The color scheme has also changed. I really like the grey brownish tint of the plugin instead of the stronger grey black of the hardware. In regards to the hardware, the plugin offers an extra total harmonic distortion control, a dry-wet mix dial for parallel processing and oversampling. In its default settings, this plugin uses about 3% CPU usage on my system. This CPU usage changes dramatically when you turn on oversampling. With 8 times oversampling I already get more than 50% CPU usage. The 16 times oversampling setting simply overloads my CPU. But oversampling does nicely remove aliasing, so be aware of when and where to use this function. I do have some issues with the interface, and that is that these 3 dials are not used in the plugin. They are here for visuals only. I would leave them out or do something smarter to show they are not used. I tried to turn them on and off in all sorts of ways at first. The same goes for the bell setting on the view display switch. It's not functional on the plugin. All in all, this is a beautiful sounding compressor with a lot of personality. There is a 14-day trial, just download the plugin and see if it fits in your audio toolshed.